All right, welcome back to the Focus Podcast. I got a special guest here, Bryan Fontez. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? How's it going?
How's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah, good. In the person.
Yeah.
Last time was we were in person last time, but it was
Audio only.
audio only. So I was just we were just talking about this before we started rolling. Like it started with the audio phase with just the H5, just talking, which was nice because I got to see people.
Zoom?
Still we still had the good conversation because I could see somebody, and then obviously the years of that thing that happened, we had to be inside, and so that kind of forced me into this world, and we did the virtual one. So I don't think I did one with you virtually. But that was the next level. So I went up, I think it was about till episode 15, and then I picked it up once the lockdown happened. And then I had this program called Restream, and basically it was like easy template, and it was you can bring your guest in easily, and it was pretty easy to go. And
nice.
then so I've had this place for a couple of years now, and just last May I really started getting into this. So I was like, I gotta use this room and then get people in here and just make this
Well, the setup is like a big upgrade from last time. So
like a place to showcase.
I think we
people
did
like
the
yourself.
audio. I think we did the audio just before pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, a while back.
This is good. I like the video is always better. People
absolutely.
love video content, right? So
Exactly.
it's hard. I think it's hard for people to get into audio only unless they're invested in one way or another, where they know the person, or it's a bigger podcast or something like that.
Yeah, and it's a big undertaking too, especially if you're operating it solo like myself. And
you're a professional. You're a professional cameraman.
I'm
right?
kidding.
So,
Yeah.
no, you are.
I know,
That's been your career, lifelong career. So,
but
why not?
this part I'm getting there. Like this, I believe this is just like Wild West shit too. This is very trial and error.
Yeah, sure.
This type of stuff. So last time we were chatting, you were still in your band, right? You were in Last Bullet.
I was. I think so.
Yeah.
What? I don't even remember what year it was.
I think this is probably at least 7 years ago.
Okay, so I was probably at the tail end of
2017.
Yeah.
So since then, you've left Toronto.
Yeah.
And you've gone into your own venture. You kind of like stopped doing music for a little bit.
I don't think I ever like fully stopped doing music.
Well, you never but as an artist.
No, I stopped performing.
Yes,
really. That's probably what you meant. Yeah.
But with the band too, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, the band I think broke up in about 2019, 2018. I'm fuzzy on it, but our last show was at the Horseshoe Tavern, sold out, which was awesome.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah, it was a great show. We played with Crown Lands, which are doing really well. They're a rock band that's on the radio and stuff like that. So, it was awesome, and lots of great memories and stuff like that, and all the things that we accomplished and the experience that I gained from it, I have taken with me on lots of other things that I've now pursued over the last I don't know how long has it been now? Another 5-6 years. So it's been a while, but in the pandemic, my wife and I since moved to Hamilton, bought a house there. Hamilton's been awesome and super up and coming. A lot of really cool stuff happening, even creative and musically. So that's been exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, Hamilton is just like another what Toronto used to be, maybe, or attainable things that you could do. And I feel like there's just so much creative minds in Ontario or Toronto. It's just a competitive space.
Yeah.
And then, almost Hamilton is like a clean slate in a certain way.
And a lot of Torontonians who are like-minded and similar in age to you and I, business, everything from artists to business owners to people just with ideas have been leaving Toronto and coming specifically to Hamilton for the same reasons. They're getting priced out. They want to, explore business opportunities or be creative, and they feel maybe not neglected, but snuffed out by Toronto. Whether it's the overpopulation or it's overpriced, or it is a great. Hamilton's been great for a lot of people as a reset, and I've seen a lot of people benefit from it. Like, for example, we knew Heather and I, and also my sister, we're all good friends with the owners of the Handlebar.
In Kensington,
and she left, and her and her partner moved to Hamilton, for example.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they opened up a couple of their own bars.
Well, they're still running in the They passed it off?
They passed it off, and they had another bar. I can't remember what their bar is
Okay.
called right now. It's slipping my mind at the moment. But they opened a new bar in Hamilton and doing really, really well. So, and a lot of businesses from Toronto left and came to Hamilton to reopen, and just basically their leases are lower. They don't have to pay as much. And so I'm seeing a huge influx of like Toronto talent, creativity, money, and ideas coming to not just Hamilton but other cities, but definitely Hamilton as well. So Hamilton has been having its problems, but it's like also exciting. You can feel some stuff is changing, and they're making a lot of big upgrades. They're spending millions of dollars to do the waterfront like they did in Toronto. And they're redoing Cops Coliseum, which is now called First Ontario Place. They're going to do it kind of like the Skydome did where they, or Rogers Center. I'll always call it
whatever
the
you want to call it. True Torontonians call it
I'll always call it the Skydome.
Yeah, you can't incorporate me.
Yeah. And so they're going to kind of upgrade it like that, where it's got multiple entertainment areas and live music everywhere, a DJ here, a saxophonist there, a band there. So it's going to get a whole facelift and revamp, because their goal and their plan is to try to attract the bigger artists and sporting events back into Hamilton, which I think is a good idea.
Well, I do a lot of stuff in Hamilton too. I do a lot of the Forge games.
Yeah.
Nice. I was doing some of the rock games actually there for broadcasts in the First Union Center. We did I do the CCMAs too. My buddy's the TP on that, so I'm on that show, and we did that there.
Canadian Country Music Awards?
Yeah,
Nice.
just prior to the renovation.
Nice.
So yeah, I could see the potential, and it's like, it's booming. And you know my friend Roger, he came over to your place. We did that,
I remember.
and he moved there as well. He was
to Hamilton. Yeah.
him and his wife were in the bottom of Gladstone there, like Gladstone and Queen, like across the Drake.
Yep.
And he's like we had our fun, and it's just overcrowded, and it's expensive and everything, like everything you just explained.
Yeah.
And they're having a ball there, and she's from there, so it just kind of like
Made
it was
sense.
easier. And I seen that transition as well too. It's like a professional level of entertainment has entered Hamilton, and now it's definitely a playing force. And it's been a playing force for years, because movies, lots of Toronto's overcrowded. They go to Hamilton. You can get the same look, New York look from Hamilton. So here's kind of what you were saying already. I just, as we were talking about this, I kind of just thought about this. I feel like that Queen West is like Hamilton is what Queen West was like 10, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Because I'm from Parkdale. I know Parkdale from the 90s.
So you hit it on the head. I was actually...
And Ossington.
That was what I was just about to say.
Ossington and Queen was a dump. Like when I was 20 years ago, you didn't want to walk down there if you were a young girl by yourself. But now it's like the most happening city in street in North America. So that whole area, I think, is just bled out of talent and young people and creativity, and like so many... open-minded places with creativity. It's just spilling over, and it's just like anywhere else where it's competitive, it's expensive. And I think a majority of the people that have left to go to Hamilton, I think, are from have previously been to the West End or like downtown.
I would agree, and that was the exact point I was going to make, was like the conversation I was having with some of my friends from Queen West and my wife at the time, because Queen West is where I've been.
It's a young person's area.
Yeah, I mean, it was my watering hole for like 15 years.
Yeah,
I called it, and the people who were in the live music scene, we called it the rock and roll strip.
Yeah,
and it was our kind of like. Like back, I don't know if you know the old rock and roll story days of bands in LA and stuff, but like
our Sunset
Sunset Strip, that kind of like. But there was a scene going on, right? And there was just tons of awesome bands playing all the clubs all the time. It felt like a smaller, more Torontonian version of that on a smaller level. We had a community, we had stuff going on, we had great venues. It was the Hideout, it was Cherry Colas, it was Bovine, it was Tattoo Rock Parlor. It was like there's so many. And it was a really cool hot spot where you could just kind of jump from bar to bar watching different live bands and music. And the pandemic, it was already gentrifying. Yeah. And the pandemic kind of like, it was inevitable that was going to happen. But the pandemic really like put that on a rocket. Yeah. And it really took off. And by the time the pandemic was over, towards the tail end of it, like it felt like everything we loved about Queen West and Toronto, for that matter, most of it had died. and was gone. And our community of like live musician friends and stuff were not really congregating anymore, and there weren't places to go, and our favorite places were shut down. And we were started to sit there thinking, why are we still here?
Yeah,
we don't have any attachment left to this place, and we didn't feel that, so we decided to leave and start something new. But I will say the one thing that I find really interesting, and it just kind of blew my mind, and it kind of pisses me off, is all of these big companies wanted to open up on Queen West because it was so cool, and the place to be, and they saw that, not realizing that they're replacing the cool places that people wanted to go to. So they're really shooting themselves in the foot.
Unless you're unique yourself.
Exactly. So like I understand why, like clothing stores and even Taco Bell and this and that all want to be on Queen West. But if you like, it's not going to work if you're replacing the reasons why people are there. Like, why do you think like fast food and restaurant type spots on Queen West were working so well? It's because you have a bunch of super starving, drunken,
very high
musicians and music lovers stumbling out of venues looking for something to eat. 1,000. And if you replaced all those venues, then you're not going to really get that much business. So you can't replace the reason why you went there to begin with. And I just found it so weird. That's all.
Yeah, it's funny. You're just segueing into like what I want to ask you is like. So now I've been in the beaches for 5 years, and I've always known that you know this as a musician. Everything's in the West End. All the venues are in the West End, unless you're like doing Danforth or like there's a couple spots on Danforth that are okay, but those are like grimy places, old, Black Swan places like that,
or even bigger places like Danforth Music Hall.
Like unless you're doing big, but like all smaller independent, smaller venues, all the happening places are still in Queen West. So I just went over there.
Or west of Queen West.
Yeah, exactly. So I went there, maybe a week or so ago, and I was just walking up Dundas, and hadn't been there so long too. So like you just said, the pandemic basically knocked off a bunch of venues that were already going to be like they're teetering already.
Right.
And what I find is that, yes, a lot of things shut down, but now, especially in the last year or so, and you might have seen this in Hamilton, there is a massive surge of small places that are doing music that are really happening and really cool.
Oh, no way.
And
I haven't been in Toronto, so
I just know this because now I'm interviewing all these young artists. I had a couple rappers come in, and I know, and I'm connected with a couple of the younger rappers here, and they're just like feeding me information, what's going on. But it's all these places I used to live 20 years ago, like 15 years ago. I grew up like Dufferin and Davenport as a kid in the 90s, and there's an area up on Gary Street now, which is all industrial or used to be. It's like the happening area. There's like all these art shows, like all these indie shows, like all these. And so I had this young rapper here, and we started talking. And I was like, you're going to ask me. I knew he was going to ask me about this area. Yeah. And I was like, I grew up there. And he's like, no fucking way. And it's like, so I know, it's like I already have a strong connection with all this scene already. So now I feel like, I've been through the transition of the lockdown of seeing all these older venues pass on. And now it's almost exciting to see this new wave of creativity for venues opening up.
I think it's bound to happen, right? Like, that stuff is always in flux, and it's going to change, and there's going to be creative people all the time. So it makes sense that like new people would create their own opportunities in new areas and stuff like that. Especially like, I mean, all the doors closing on Queen West just means like there's going to be a hunger for other creative people to find a new outlet somewhere else. Yeah. And they'll start going to other places, right? Or open their own places, right?
I know exactly what you mean about I also wanted to touch on the thing about the chain stores being in Queen West, because when I was in Queen West, it was like you never went to the places that were chains. There were sporadic kind of chains in the West End. There was McDonald's here and there. But the clothing stores you would go to were the cool secondhand ones. The record stores you would go to that you would. They were just only unique, one of a kind ones, and even all the music venues were like kind of unique styles. So it's you had that all kind of fed each other. So you're right. As soon as those venues go away, then it's a domino effect of the entire scene. Yeah. And then the last 2 years coming out of lockdown, I've been to a lot of tiny towns in Ontario, and I just see the hunger for music.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm seeing like all these little towns trying new things.
Yeah, I think it's smart.
Pretty cool.
Creative's gonna create. You know what I mean?
No matter what.
So I mean, like if there's no venue, someone's gonna like rent a warehouse and buy speakers and do it illegally if they have to.
Exactly.
So they're gonna find a way.
So that's cool, because you and your wife are doing this business, and you guys both have these expertise in all these areas, and you're combining that together for a business. So for myself and stuff like this, I see a huge opportunity in like individual client request and stuff like that, especially like DJing, party organizing, and all that type of stuff, event organizing. So do you see a change? Instead of people going to venues, it's more about people coming to services like what you have? And
it depends on the client. We're definitely like I guess you'd kind of call it we do destination events, and when I say that, I don't mean it the more grand version of destination events, meaning like you go somewhere on vacation for a destination. Like I don't mean like Mexico, that even though we'll do those events.
Yeah, if you want to pay, I'll come. We're coming. Yeah.
I mean more so I see a lot of we're more company and larger event entertainment company. So like we don't typically do events that are going to showcase musicians and stuff like that, even though we would get into that. And we could absolutely facilitate an event like that. We're usually for an end user or like a client who wants to incorporate talent into their event. Like they've got the space already, everything is decided, and they're like, okay, now we need entertainment.
Yes.
Or now we need audio, now we need lighting, now we need this, and we provide all of that back end stuff. And the nice thing is, because of my background and our background with MLSE, and the fact that we've both been fortunate enough to be a part of like basically act like huge events.
The biggest,
we understand what the standard is, and we've seen the biggest of the big, and so it's a nice thing that we can bring that experience and professionalism into doing other things, and I try to take advantage of that. We basically also through my days in the music industry here in Toronto, we're super heavily ingrained and still have a huge network of musicians that I like to work with. So we try to call upon anybody and everybody that we can for any event that needs anything specific or niche. And we like to be super dynamic in what we can offer, and tell people that we can do everything from a rock band to a cover band to a string quartet or a harpist or a saxophone player with the flamethrower that comes out of his sax.
Whatever you want.
Just like we did an event with a Mexican mariachi band.
Oh, sweet.
A couple months ago, and we did like Arabic Zeph drummers as well, and Zeph band and stuff. So I love that stuff. I love the cultural stuff. We take pride in being super multicultural and dynamic that way. And I still have all those connections with the rock scene and with musicians. So we try to utilize that as much as possible, and basically provide all talent, DJs, MCs, audio, and all lighting and stuff like that. So,
and tech-wise, you have that background, and that profession.
Yeah, exactly. So the nice thing about having worked at MLSE is like we both did lighting as well. Yep. So we have a good idea of how lighting should work and how it looks. And we did broadcast stuff, so we understand a lot of the connection. We did audio, so we understand audio as well. So, I've been very fortunate to have the opportunities that I've had, and I honestly believe it's really helped me to have experience that really, if you think about it, how many people in Toronto have had the experience that you and I have?
A handful.
A handful, right?
Yeah.
Not that many.
Yeah.
So we definitely try to utilize that as much as possible. And same thing goes for my wife. My wife was a huge general GM and general manager and operations manager for a lot of restaurants, flagship ones in Toronto. She opened Kelly's Landing, for example. Open it. Yep. And she also opened Plant a Queen on Queen Street as well, and a bunch of other locations in Toronto that she's GM'd and worked at. So she has like really high level management experience, and also doing the finances and sales and customer care and hospitality. So together we have a lot of experience in just like servicing people and taking care of them. And I think we both really complement each other with our skill set, which it's worked out really, really well so far.
Yeah, it looks like for sure, and I know your guys' experience. I'm aware of your guys' experience, and it's such a good combination to work with, because it is a hospitality service industry, and the more I see it with AV, it is more and more catered to what the client wants. And I see this as well, because I've been doing a lot of corporate the last 2 years, and I'm using all this stuff. OBS, the ATM mini machine, all this type of stuff, and I just kind of did it on my own out of boredom.
Yeah,
and also knowing that the whole industry was going to take off coming back. So I was like, I don't want to catch up with everybody. I want to go ahead. So it's the same thing. I'm trying to bring, a polished live look to corporate or stuff like that a client would like, what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, instead of like them having to go through certain channels to get a bunch of stuff done, they'll just go through you for everything they want. And
exactly.
We did the same thing with a friend of mine. He quit ET Canada. So over the lockdown, we saw the writing on the wall come, because we'd have coffee every day, talk, and we're like, this is the beginning of the end of this type of spending, And we did a setup like this, and I had an audio op in the room, and him and the three of us, and we ran a sweet show, like a 2-camera show. And he goes, this is just as good as like the whole room in ET with 30 people paying all this rent, all this stuff. It's like,
a lot of people running around.
It's the content.
Nothing.
It's the content. You don't need all this overexpending on a set.
Nope. You just need decent equipment and high standards.
Some lights. That's it, really. Yeah. That's it. And then also, it's a professionalism too. You bring, the polished live look to whatever you're doing. So we were doing this event for Lilly, which is a drug company, and he took it on, and he hired a host from ET that he used to work with. So when they usually have for corporate events, they have like, sales, you won this, and they have like a big party in the next room or something. And so he did a red carpet outside, and so as they were coming in, we interviewed them like as if they were going to a movie premiere.
Nice.
And we set it up like I was on the phone with them, because we had no comm, so we just like timed it, so as they came in, the screen changed, and we just kept switching it.
That's
like
cool.
It's just a little bit of extra work, but it just made it so much more polished and a better experience. And the client at the end of the day was like, this is fucking awesome. It's like,
that's unique.
Everybody's really enjoying it. And he's like,
yeah.
Can you guys do the whole thing next year?
Yeah.
Because in hotels, you can get assistance from AV companies that are in the hotels already, and it costs a certain amount of money, but you can bypass that if you want. You can do the whole enchilada if you want. So I'm saying what I'm trying to say is that there's a whole wave of people looking to get their business on video or streaming or whatever, or events covered, or not even if it's videotaped, just to have like some entertainment. But they're looking for people like us. They're bypassing these agencies that used to provide this stuff, and maybe I'm going to call it the Red Giant Rogers, who used to do corporate events and overcharge like through the roof for certain clients. So I'd be sitting in certain corporate events and like actually feel bad for the client, because it's like the provider is just phoning it in, and they're charging all this money, and it's like, man,
when they could have just hired
you guys separately. Well, it's not only that, it's like everything. So I did the Call of Duty thing. I did twice I did the Call of Duty thing here at Mattamy Center. So the first time they hired us through Dome, and then the second time they just...
Is that like competitive gaming Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Tournament?
Oh, yeah, like the high-end professional,
right,
the top of the league.
Yep.
Which is another beast in its own.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the second time they just hired us, they just called us, and they gave us more money.
Yeah.
And they paid us in American.
Yeah.
And then
Smart.
so at the end of the thing, we were like, you don't need to ever call those guys again.
Yeah.
You can just call us directly. And it's
Yeah.
like, do you need more audio people? Do
Yeah.
you need more of this people?
We'll get them.
We'll get them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's advantage of people like you and I have, and especially you as a musician. That's a huge up. It's like when you enter the corporate world, there's not a lot of people that have that connection with A, musicians, and B, crew.
Yeah.
Like really good crew.
Yeah.
So you have that, and it's like, and that's really cool. Like when you guys are entering this world of business, it's like you have that ammunition already. It's like, it's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we need this flamethrower saxophonist
player.
Oh yeah, that guy opened up for me 10 years ago. Let me see what he's doing. You know. And so it's whatever, you know, you're saying to the client. You're like, you know, here's the blank canvas.
Yeah.
Show me what you want, and then we'll price it out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't put it like putting any limits on what we're capable of doing.
Yeah,
and I kind of do the.
I'm
same.
sure you have to. You're like, no, we can't do a rocket ship out of a fucking cake, bro, for $500.
There has to be some limits. There are some things. And we are growing, so I mean, we have limits. But at the same time, I'm a very big build it and they will come kind of thing.
Yeah, you have a big imagination.
Yeah,
so you're...
and I have to use myself as an example because my whole life I have not known my own limits and purposely didn't set any for myself. And I've had so many people ask me, "Can you do this?"
Yes.
And it's something I'd never done before, and this has happened many times. And my answer would be like, "I don't know, but if you give me an opportunity, we will find out."
That's what I always liked about you, because when we were sitting in the ACC all the time, we would just, you know, snowball ideas off of each other, and you're like, we're going to do this music video up in the Royal York in the attic. What do you think? And I was just like, sounds like a lot of work and a lot of fucking dust. But do it. Fuck yeah. And then you're like, 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, we shot it. And I was like, what? It's like, yeah, we did it.
It was a really cool fucking video.
It was sick. And it turned out fucking amazing. But it's just like, you never had that in your mind. Like, oh, well, what about this and this? That never enters your mind. Like this whole time I've known you, it's always been like you've thrown it out there, you've put it out into the air, and you're like, you make it happen, or at least you make an attempt.
Yeah,
you know? Like
I mean, I think everybody has to try. Like everyone has to try. Like you definitely will fail if you don't even try. Guaranteed.
You will fail. You will. 1,000%.
That is fail. What failing is.
Yeah.
It's not like, definitely not trying. But yeah, there's so many moments in my life where had I not given myself the opportunity, I wouldn't have even found out. And you learn a lot about yourself by trying things that you don't even know if you're going to succeed or not.
100%.
But you shouldn't be going into things knowing. Like I tried I'm such a Star Wars nerd, but the do or do not, there is no try. Kind of like I never noticed that's been pretty much my entire life. Like I just dive into things and try them. Like for example, I've always wanted to score music for either film or video games or a TV show or this or that, and I've always wanted to do it, but I didn't go to school for it, and it's a pretty complex thing to be able to arrange music for a full orchestra and get the dynamics, the mixing, knowing what instrument goes with what and who plays what.
Experience.
It's tough. You have to learn harmony, melody, counterpoint. Like there's so many little things that you need to know the ins and outs of. And I had a lot of basic knowledge just from being a songwriter, from playing a lot of different instruments, trombone, piano, drums, singing. And I had recently a friend of mine be like, hey, can you score the music for this animated show that I'm working on? I'm like, listen, I've never done it. I've always wanted to. Let me take a crack at this. Just give me 2 weeks and let me see what I can come up with, and we'll have our answer and we'll find it out. So I started like just writing anything that came to mind, themes for like the villain and the protagonist, and you know, like a village that they end up at, and like, you know, the battle music and little different things just to get some thematic stuff. And then ended up coming up with like music for the trailer and this and that, and he was really happy with it, and then we re-released it, and now I'm going to officially be scoring this TV show. And if I didn't try, I would have known if I was capable or not, because I've never done it before.
Awesome.
So you have to try. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you gotta try. Don't give up before you even taken a one step.
Try and fail.
Try, and if I have done a lot of failing.
Oh yeah.
I have failed too. Yeah, I have failed at a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff where I'm like, this is not a good fit for me. Or I'll tell them straight up, like I'll say, let me try, and then I'll do it, and I'll be like, yeah, I don't know if I am the right person for this job. And it's happened. And as long as you can be honest like that and self-reflective, I think
it saves you so much aggravation in the long run. It's like, because I find, you know, the more people that say yes 100% off the bat get themselves into the most trouble, because they're like promising all this stuff. But I love what you said. You're like, let me take a stab at it first and see, then we'll go from there, and I'll give you, you know, exact answer.
Yeah, for sure.
After that, and
sometimes you do got to say yes without knowing. Sometimes too.
Yes, because I've done that too before. And it's like, no, you should have said yes and fake it till you fucking make it.
I know. Fake it till you make it.
So
is a big deal too. That goes a long way.
There's times too, and it's also same thing. Like my friend called me, like the guy who TPs the Country Music Awards, and he calls me and he's like, "You do the streaming stuff, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "What can we do for this?" And I was like thinking the gear that I had, and I should have went out and quoted $15,000. Like I should have got the best shit and spelled it out for him, because it wasn't his money. He didn't care. Yeah. He was just like, tell me what you can do. Yeah. So I should have took that as like, go to the top. Yeah. And, you know, and that's what, because I came back to him with this. It's like, we can do this with this. He's like, no, we need bigger. Yeah. So and then it's hard to gauge somebody else sometimes. Exactly. That's why it's important to kind of ask them their budget. You know what I mean? To see where. There's a few things you have to do. The budget, and also you kind of have to see how ridiculous their idea is too, right? Yeah, like if it's doable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I had a kid who was that the apartment I was living in downtown. He came over and was a rapper, and he wanted me to do a video for him. And he was like, I said, so what's your budget? He's like, $300. And I was like,
my God.
I was like, well, $300 would get you like 2 hours with me for, you know, like a couple scenes. Yeah. And then he was like, I was like, what do you want, you know? He's like, I want a boat scene with all this stuff and girls and all this shit.
So you want boats and hoes.
And I was like, okay, sure. But that should be your only shot.
Right.
Like I said, whenever you get other people involved in a music video, now you're relying on them.
Your whole budget's going to be
You're relying on them to show up. They're relying on, you know, them to be on time. And then what happens? You know, something might happen out in the water. You're stuck. Right. Then the rest of your scenes are fucked for the whole day. So you're going to compromise the rest of your video for one ridiculous scene, which if you don't have the right budget, you're not going to capture it properly. Right. And it's just going to be some shitty footage of me bouncing all over the boat. Yeah. And so you have to kind of pitch that realism to your client as well. Yeah. But let me segue into like your music. So you maybe took a time out from doing your own solo stuff, or you stopped your band and then you kind of started doing solo stuff. I like what you said about performance, like you're not afraid to do stuff, and I feel like that's ingrained in you just because like of all your stage presence you've had in the past. You're just like not afraid to just like, you know.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I think Last Bullet was like that too, where I had not been the front man of a band before. I just knew I could sing, and I had been a drummer my entire life mostly, and played piano. But I knew I wanted to do something original and creative, and so like I really pursued and looked for a band, and that's when the Last Bullet thing fell into place, and we were just a good match for each other, and had a great career for like a good 9-10 years, accomplished awesome things. But as far as like being a solo artist now, since after that, I've written a bunch of great music and worked on a lot of stuff. And I've actually spent quite a bit of money. I have a few singles that are ready that I just haven't released yet, and I've just been so goddamn busy.
Yeah,
I've been like too busy to like
good busy.
Yeah, and I know that these days the kids' mentality of this generation is like, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, or if you're ready or not, or if you have funding to put into it or not.
Very different.
I agree. Like I want everything. It's funny because I actually watched a podcast on this, and there's a big mental difference in terms of philosophy and standards between our generation and today's generation.
Yeah.
And today's generation is the disposable content generation, where they're literally about throwing everything that they have at the wall and seeing what sticks, and then also documenting the process of learning while they're doing it.
Which is what we never had documented before.
So we didn't do that. We come from a generation that is the polar opposite. Get your ducks lined up, get your shit in order, and then when you are ready to show everyone everything, it is pristine, it is polished, it is professional, it's going to impress the shit out of everybody. The new generation doesn't care about that. They're just throwing everything that they can, and if something hits, it hits. And in a way, that's better in some ways, just because there's no fear there, and there's no fear to learn on the fly and stumble in front of people, and also you're just getting content out there. They're realizing that the value of quantity, you know what I mean, over quality, so to speak. Whereas I think our generation is more quality over quantity generation.
Well, that word content has like quantity embedded in it.
Yes. You know? Yeah. And I personally, it's hard for me to like grasp the concept of quantity at the expense of quality. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm a quality over quantity kind of person. Yeah. I don't want to buy more shit for my house anymore. I want less things that are made well.
That last.
You know, like
we're from that generation.
Yeah, I would rather buy $50 for a t-shirt that's going to last forever right now than more garbage like $5 t-shirts that are going to be ripped in a day, right?
Yeah.
So, so like with that said, I should probably just be releasing everything and just getting it out there. But I keep thinking
maybe there's a reason you're holding on to it.
Yeah, I have a single, for example, I worked on with a really big producer named Anton DeLost. He worked on a lot of big albums with other bands and stuff. Even did 3 Days Grace song and what was Adam Gantier's other band? I can't remember what they were called. Saint Sonia. And I worked on an album on a single with him, and it's really, really good, and I've just been holding on to it for like a year, and I think I held on to it because I wanted to do a music video with it. I wanted to release it as the music video because I just think it's a powerful song, and I think it's a really good single, so I just kind of been holding on to it. And I had another single that I actually I had it scheduled to release this year, and I actually was about to release it, and I had to pull it off. And I had to pull it off because it was a cover that I had redone, like remixed big time, of Danko Jones. Yeah. So it was I love Danko Jones, one of my favorite Canadian rock artists, and I remixed and redid one of his songs. Instead of rock, I did it in like a slow, sexy R&B pop kind of vibe. Yeah. And I was set to release it, but I didn't have the rights. I didn't have the rights to release it.
That's the big difference of generation.
Yeah. So I ended up getting in touch with his management, and they said, "Yeah, no problem, you can release it." So
cool.
Yeah, so I have the rights now. Yeah. I just haven't had time. to go back to the distribution, the DistroKid, the this, the that, and actually,
get it straight.
Submit it to Spotify and everything to get released. So, but hopefully that will come out soon. I'll probably release it in January, and hopefully I want to release a couple of the other singles. I have like 3 or 4 that are ready, and a whole bunch more that I'm working on. But again, I've got this business with my wife on the Lake Entertainment that we're really busy with and doing really well with, and we it's our bread and butter, it's our income, so we have to that takes precedent.
I'm really happy of the this is also why I wanted to talk to you too, is just that this transition you made is so cool, and I see so many people doing it, and it's like I want to champion people who are doing that. And it's not only I'm trying to branch out too with this podcast, as well as like not only just musicians doing this, but as well as just creators, cooking show people, yoga people, they're doing their own thing. Just kind of taking their expertise and just putting it on a platform and providing a service for people that people want. People want this stuff. It's in demand everywhere. I don't want to keep you too long because
that's okay. I have more time. Don't
you
worry.
got about
we're at about 4:30
minutes.
No, I can go until 5 at least.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep her going.
Let's go.
That's so for the folks that don't know, Bryan did all my drums for the previous album on AM Grinding. So
it was fun.
It was really fun because I was explaining this to my last guest, and I said I really wanted the album to really move, like get people dancing and moving. And I'm so glad that you laid that foundation down, because that album, when I released it, it was so hard for me emotionally, because I released it in 2020 December, and it's like we were going right into the second lockdown, and it's just like those songs motivated me so much to just keep going and just build and try something new and go into a new adventure, and help me go on to the next level. So appreciate everything from that, man.
It was my pleasure, man.
It was a lot of fun.
It was fun to record. I just wanted to give you like some dynamic drum parts that were all very different, so that you had stuff to play with and chop up and different vibes. You know what I mean? So I tried to give you a good assortment of like tempos and grooves and time signatures and. I think it was a good match because like my drumming background is very multicultural, so I even think I played probably a couple like Indian beats for you.
Yeah, there were.
And like
I think I can't remember what song somebody said to me. It sounded like Bollywood.
Yeah. Is that like tick, and I do that a lot in even the rock bands that I play. Like I love drums. I like tribal sounding drums. I like a little bit of everything. So if you listen to the Reed Effect, which I'm the drummer of as well, another rock band. I'm actually playing with them at the Bovine on December 20th.
Oh, amazing.
So that's going to be like next week or so. That'll be fun. December 20th. So
how's your buddy doing, by the way?
What's that?
How's he doing?
He's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Reed Effect. I saw him a few years ago.
Kirk, yeah. No, the Reed Effect are doing great. I'm not like full-time drumming with them anymore because I'm so busy with the business, but anytime I'm available and they need a drummer, I always jump in and have a great time playing with them. So it's a good memory to have, and we worked on and released 2 albums together that I'm super proud of. Really fun, creative, dynamic stuff. But what I was getting at is I even with them when we write, we all wrote the songs together. I try to kind of inject really interesting drum parts, and I always try to draw from different cultures of music and different types of drums and Latin drum ideas and if you listen to the Reed Effect, in the drums I try to write drum parts that I think drummers would have fun playing. So like we have songs that have jazz, we have songs that have Latin, that Indian, Arabic, like, so I just love that kind of vibe, and drums are drums, man. If they make people move and they're interesting to listen to, you can rap over top of it, you can sing over top of it, you can make it work. So
it's the foundation.
Yeah.
And that's always been my hardest part to get past is the drums, because I'm not good. Like I don't have very much experience with instruments, but it's always something that has given me a roadblock. So anytime I had to make my own beats, it's a very long process. So when you helped me with the drums, that was already over with. And I went to Ashton's place. Shout out to Ashton. So he just blasted through all that, editing it, and then he laid some bass. So I had the bass and drums within like a few weeks already, and that album was so quick to make. Also because I had all this time, this lockdown, and then so now this album I'm making is a lot slower. It's been everything I've gone through in the lockdown, and also I kind of wanted to get back to making my own beats again. But what I realized the importance of is, especially with making that last album, is it's, yes, the polished stuff is amazing, it's great, but the most important thing is getting the idea and the essence of it. So I used my Akai machine and I got a lot of beats done just with the essence and the you know, the feeling involved in it. And I knew it was sloppy. So then I introduced it to some of my musician friends, and they just kind of helped me take that idea and reshape it,
polish it a bit.
So it's we got the sweet idea, I got the sound that I wanted, you know, some sort of special keyboard or something, and then like that was the main essence of it, is getting that moment and not being hung up on just kind of like, oh, I gotta perfect this little thing, and then just getting discouraged and not moving on, you know.
I agree with you. I think half the time it's literally finding the best way to get the idea out. 100%. It can be very, very frustrating because a lot of people, I would even say there's people who are not musically inclined but have great ideas.
Yes,
the idea and the music talent are not necessarily the same thing.
That's me, and I had to figure out a way how to get it out on capture,
because there are people who like can't play a note on an instrument but they have some great ideas. You know what I mean? So like getting the idea, it's even more frustrating when you have both but you can't get the idea.
You're like, it's fucking in my head, and then it shows up somewhere else. You're like, I was thinking of that.
You know what's the most frustrating for me? I live in a house where I don't have a drum set in my house.
Yes,
I can't set up a drum set. And so if I want to play a beat, I have to play them on my fingers on stupid drum pads. And I'm like, and I get frustrated because I'm like, I'm a fucking drummer. What am I doing? Like, I want sticks. You know what I mean? Like, where's my drum kit? Like, and I think to myself, I'm like, I'm spending all this time trying to write these drum parts on these stupid pads with my fingers when I could literally just play this in 10 seconds. And so that's the frustration sometimes of your limitations of what you have at your disposal. Whereas, like, I'm just used to being, from Last Bullet days and Reed Effect, being in a real fucking recording studio with a piano there and a drum set there, and that's how I put shit together. So when I'm on my computer and it's literally my laptop and a maybe a small keyboard and a touchpads, it's like how do you get the idea out more efficiently, faster, without getting frustrated? And that can be really tough sometimes.
And then taking it easy on yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to like, piano is my first instrument, so I tend to like actually starting and writing everything on piano first, because it lets me flesh out. I get melodies, I get harmony ideas, I get vibe and stuff like that, and then I start piecing other things together. One thing that's helped me a lot is I use Logic, and this is probably true of a lot of other softwares too, but they've got a lot of like pre-programmed drum tracks.
Oh, the plugins are awesome.
Some of the plugins are like, the drums are already there, and then you could tweak them.
They're great.
You can sequence there, you can take snares out, do this, do that, mix, turn stuff up. So that's helped when I just want some filler bullshit. To get my idea across first, So
you got to capture that. Like Roger said, that lightning in a bottle. He used to always to say that for me.
For sure.
And he's like, when he records, like I think we did that when we went to your house, and I was like, Roger is very much like this. I have to be ready, and I'm always ready. I'm always ready when musicians come over. I'm always ready. I've done my sound check already. And we don't need to noodle around when you get here. So as soon as they sit down, I'm recording, and they think that they're warming up, but I'll be getting most of the good shit. And then you'd be like, all right, let's try one. Some people they try a couple and then they're ready to record. Most of the stuff that I've had on that album were Roger's first and second takes. Like right out of the bat. So he was very adamant on like us being relaxed, getting just chill right away, and then getting into it instantly. Because you have all that angst, driving across the city, all that shit. Bring it with you, and you just lay it out, and then you can relax.
Which it's funny because I think a lot of my drum takes that you used, I thought I was just warming up.
And that's where I fooled you because Dave, I thought
we were just getting into it.
Exactly.
And they're like, okay, that's good. I'm like, what do you mean? No, that we got everything. We got it. That was just.
Dave, I had him set everything up before you even got there. So we mic'd it up, and Dave's a drummer too, so he set it all up, and he.
There's something to be said for the first organic impulses and instincts being sometimes the best work.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of acting now and voice acting when I'm not busy doing music or the business stuff, not DJing, all that kind of stuff. And I have found a lot of my voice acting auditions and work recordings. A lot of the time I'll think I'm warming up and I'll do two or three takes and be like, okay, now let's get it right into the nitty gritty. And then I'm on take like 11. And then it's starting to be diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to be like, it's not sounding how I want. And then I go back and listen to take one. I'm like, that was actually the best one.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just like scrap everything else. I'm like, fuck this. And then we just continue on and submit,
Well, I learned a lot just from burning my own energy, this lockdown taught me a lot about the process as well, too. And I did that before on previous albums where it's just like, I've done so many fucking recordings of these vocals, and it's like, did I leave the better ones in previous takes? Yep. It's like, are we going too far now?
We're going backwards.
Yeah, and Dave is very much like, Dave's engineered for me for more than 16 years now, so we have a very good relationship. And he's very like, he stopped saying things like, but he's always like, we should keep that one. And I'm like, no, fuck that one.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't punch in. I'm very anti punching in.
Really, eh?
With rapping. And I my theory is if you can't do it on the stage altogether, then don't bother recording it like that. You know what I mean? Because it's the same breath work. So he's like, you want to keep that? And it's like, no, I know that it's crap, but I have to blow through like 10 takes to get to the one I want to get to. But now, you're against punching, but are you against comping? Meaning, no. like he's gonna use like you have maybe 5 full takes. Yeah.
And he's gonna actually take the part from take 1 and this part from take 2.
No,
you won't.
Never.
You want the whole take.
Never.
Wow. Okay.
Never.
That's rare.
I've never done that.
That's rare.
I've never. Maybe
that's comping, right?
Yeah.
You're comping together the best performance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's standard practice in the music industry. But the way you're doing it is the mega organic, old school way. That's the way that like Zeppelin and Sabbath and those guys would do it.
Yeah, because I grew up with rock bands.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I was a kid, a roadie for my uncle's.
Yeah, no, totally.
My uncle's Floyd band.
There's something to be said about respecting that organic way of doing it. Absolutely,
and
sure.
I find just from watching so many shows is the reason, and I'll tell you a secret, kids. Mm-hmm. The reason why rappers don't perform their entire songs live because they don't know the lyrics to the entire songs.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes they might just know one verse. They might have just memorized one verse and like we're just going to do this verse, go to the next one.
Right.
And it's not, but it's also an attention span thing too. Mm-hmm. With hip hop shows, it's like quick, song.
Which you're starting to see in the DJ world too, and I don't like.
Neither do I. So. And it's like an attention disorder deficit. Yeah. That's what it is. It's just like my buddy calls it like hyperactive consuming, like hyperactive and you're not
TikTok is not helping.
You're not helping anything. No. It's imploding.
It's feeding into ADD.
It's imploding on itself, and I think it's eventually going to eat its own head off.
Yeah.
And
you're seeing it in DJing, especially like all sorts of events, especially weddings. We do a lot of weddings, and the one thing about weddings is like most DJs now are quick mixing, so they're literally going verse chorus out, and like. I hate that.
Yeah.
My wife and I were just at an event recently where the DJ was quick mixing.
It's like somebody reaching over and grabbing your controls and just start shuffling through.
Or you know what you were just making me think? It's like you're eating a meal and someone like you just took 2 bites and someone just took it away from you. Here's your dessert.
You're cheesy.
Yeah. So it's like
I feel like there's a Looney Tunes cartoon in there somewhere. Yeah.
And it sucks because my wife was like, we were dancing a little bit and we don't go dancing often. So there was she was loving a song and he started mixing. So the song just came in, she's singing the verse, we're dancing, and then as soon as the first note of the first chorus hits, you can start hearing and mixing the next song already. I'm like, that's crazy. And she's just like, already? I'm like, we just started this song.
Yeah.
So that's a little too much for me. I like going at least verse, chorus, and then maybe cut the bridge or go out by the bridge.
Yeah.
I like holding the song a little bit more, letting people get into a groove. There might be the odd person who likes that, who doesn't like that, but I think they're in the minority.
I think it's
I would rather play too much of the song than too little. Personally,
Yeah.
Most DJs, not most, but a lot of DJs would say the opposite, and that's just not my vibe, to be honest. So
I think it also. There's a guest I had on last time. He was saying about how, well, he's older. He's like, my kids, we were watching TV and everybody's looking at their phone, I also looked. I was thinking Moby. He had an interview. He was saying like when we bought albums, the music was the main source of attention. So you were listening to the music, but you were reading the liner notes. You were like just looking at something, whatever. You wouldn't be multitask entertained like you are now.
Right.
So it's like kids now the music is the background.
Right.
I'm taking the exact quotes from his interview.
Right.
He's like, the music is the background, and you got social media, you got something else on the laptop, you got this, you got that, you got 4 things going on, and the music is the background source of your attention.
I'm going to be honest with you. I am guilty of it as well.
Oh yeah, we were in that world now. We live that world. You can't help it.
I barely listen to music. I'm so involved in having music in my ears all the time. I barely listen to it for enjoyment anymore.
Yeah.
The only music I really listen to a lot. I love playing lo-fi hip hop while I'm doing emails. That's what just jazzy lo-fi hip hop in the background. That while I'm getting shit done work wise, that's my favorite thing. Exactly. My wife hates it.
That's why those things have blown up.
Yeah,
because it's
all those YouTube playlists. It's
I love people doing their task all day.
So that's all I listen to, and sleeping playlists at night to fall asleep.
I listen to comedy all day, actually.
Yeah, and I listen to podcasts, comedy, stuff like that.
Comedy I listen to at night because it's almost like it's like that feeling that you're at a party, but you don't have to give into all the party energy. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're enjoying that. That aspect of it.
But I'm guilty of the whole having a lot of stuff on at the same time, and to be honest with you, it's to the point where I'm starting to get anxiety, and I notice it. It's giving me anxiety. I can't just brush my teeth or wash the dishes anymore and be in my own mind. I always have content on. And I attribute it. I mean, it's probably a lot of people, but I do attribute it partially to I have a sickness for being interested in everything. I'm curious about goddamn everything. I want to know what the rover has found on Mars. I want to know what.
Well, that just leads
that
to
they found this Luigi
too,
Mangione guy who shot the health insurance CEO. I want to know what's going on. I want to know a little bit of everything. I want to know what Graham Hancock found in Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. I want to know all these everything, right? So my YouTube playlist is absurd, and I'm always got something on, whether I'm washing dishes or brushing my teeth or whatever. So
same.
Yeah.
I actually got rid of a couple months ago. I got rid of Instagram on my phone, and it was probably the best thing I did. And I wish I could kind of just did it on my desktop, but I have 2 Instagrams. So I have the regular one, and then I have the one for my podcast. So I wanted to start using for the podcast. And what I realized is I can't switch the accounts on the desktop. You have to do it on the phone. So I reinstalled it on the phone, and now I'm looking at the phone again. I'm like, you fucking idiot. You were out. You were so out. And now I just caught myself, even before you came over, and I was like, no. And I was just like, there's nothing good here. No. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but I put out I feel like I put out good content, and it gets good views, but it doesn't result in the latter part. I want Instagram for people to go to my YouTube, to buy my music, to come to my shows. It's not translating that step for me. I feel like it's just I feel like the people that are looking at my stories are just aimlessly looking through it, and they're not even absorbing the content.
Right.
Because
something's not connecting,
and it's not just one person. I think it's almost everybody.
Right.
And it's I've done that. I've been guilty of that too. I just fly through certain people's stories, And that's like the short attention span, like instantly just flying through shit just for the sake of flying through shit.
Yep.
And it's translated into what we do, have fun, and we go out, and that's probably like the same. The DJs are like that. They're like that on their Instagram, and they're translating it into their work. And I'm the same too. I don't really listen to a lot of music because I have a headset on my profession every day, and I don't want that. So I try to like get away from the enjoyment part of it, because the enjoyment part of it is like part of my profession.
Sure.
But it's I'll throw on a podcast and I'll listen to other music, a lot of other music. I've been actually diving into a lot of 90s albums that I overlooked when I was a teenager.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
And I never really had the intelligence to look into that avenue.
Right.
Because I was...
What are some of the albums?
Portishead.
I didn't get into them.
I didn't know anything.
I know
about them. Like, I know some of the...
Yeah.
Obviously, you heard some of the songs and you're like, okay. But I was like 14, 15 when these came out. And I went away to Edmonton for a few weeks and I just nonstop listened to these albums. And I'm like, holy shit, how did I miss this?
Portishead is one that I should have... I know a couple of songs. I listened to a couple growing up, and I should have gotten into them because Radiohead's one of my favorite bands, literally of all time. Yeah. Probably top 2. And they were always interconnected.
They're very
musically
like that.
And compared. So Portishead is one of those ones I'm surprised I didn't get more into. Yeah. There was another one too. I just can't remember the name, but but that's interesting.
A lot of 90s albums like that too that I just, it was weird because it's like nobody had that, like you could tell what somebody listened to, but what way you looked at them, you know what I mean? Like they had the outfit, you could tell like they were a rocker or a hip hop guy or something like that. But there were always kids that listened to different type of music that you were like, I don't know about that. I don't know. That's kind of too different for me. Right. I wasn't that open-minded yet to think this is be cool or something like that.
You know what that was for me? It was always like darker, like satanic style stuff. Yes. Because I was, you're Italian, I'm Portuguese. I was raised Roman Catholic. Oh, I'm not religious now.
Satan music. Oh yeah.
But I'm not religious now. But like the satanic stuff always, like I was always like, ooh. Yeah. I like in the back of my mind I was like, I can't listen to that.
Did you see that old...
And it always scared me a little bit. Like there was this like element of like ooh, like it's like taboo. I shouldn't be listening to this. Yeah. And then eventually I kind of let that go and then realized just like if it's good, it's good. And so there's some metal bands, for example, that I love. Like there's a band called Ghost, and they're like a satanic pop metal band from Sweden, and they're so good. And I love it. And they're not necessarily just metal. They kind of have like pop influences from Michael Jackson, and they have theater kind of influences, but they're like a satanic pop metal band. But it's just a shtick, you know. He dresses like priest gowns and stuff like that. And it's so fun. I love it. And I've gone to see them live.
I feel like metal fans are like the nicest music fans in the world. Often.
Which is a weird...
But I think it's an outlet. Right. It's a way to like express your anger and your all this crap and get it out.
Whereas a lot of the people who are like... they're not getting that anger out, so they end up being angrier and more, and
they're flipping out,
shitty human beings.
I found that my buddy, he did the bass of my very first album. It's like all metal bass, but he's like one of the best human beings ever. Nice. And it's like I think metal has a good, contribution to the way he is. Sure. And I saw it's funny. I see all these little videos now, and it was like. The guy's listening to metal and his roommate comes in and goes, this is all satanic stuff. And he's like, you're going to do this and this and this. And then he's like, he actually just listens to the lyrics and he's like, be yourself, love yourself, take every moment in life and cherish it. And then he's like, huh. And then he goes, I'm just going to go back and listen to my pop secular music. And it was like, dump that loser. And it was like all negative type of stuff. And it's true. It's like, if you actually listen to the lyrics in a lot of these metal songs, it's very uplifting. It's very it's very confidence in yourself. Be yourself, be brave, do the right thing. There's a lot of that message in in metal music.
Yeah,
it's there.
It's funny because like a lot of people, for example, think like Black Sabbath were super satanic.
Yeah,
and they weren't. Actually.
They were anti-Satan.
And so a lot of people don't know this. I played drums in a Black Sabbath tribute band for 5 years called Strictly Sabbath. It was a lot of fun, and it gave me the chops that I needed for the future, and taught me a lot. It was a great experience.
You didn't eat a bat on head,
No, and see that's the thing. Yeah. So. Like one or two things that Sabbath and Ozzy have done have like they've never been able to live down.
Never get away
So
from
after the bat thing, which was a mistake by the way.
Yeah, I heard.
So he thought it was fake.
Yeah.
And so he did that, and then he realized it was real. And
where did you get a bat from?
Someone threw it on stage.
What is this, the coronavirus? That's when Corona started there.
So
Ozzy.
I guess so with Ozzy.
Ozzy started it.
And then also like their first song Black Sabbath was a little bit kind of dark sound. It was not a little bit. It was a dark sounding song for its time in the 70s, and it used what they call the tritone, which is the devil's interval in music. And so,
how did the devil get this instrument?
I don't know.
By the way, it's
something that
I just picture the devil with his band, just like he's on the triangle, or cowbell.
No, what it is. It's actually an old school thing. The church a long time ago, because the church did a lot of were involved in creating a lot of the music back in the day, and with Gregorian chant and this and that, and music, history, and religion are heavily infused in our past. So
that's another. We'll go into another. That's mind control. We'll go into another episode.
Long story short, they had decided that there was this interval between three notes that's like boom, 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 and that was such a like dark sounding interval that they kind of said that it's reserved for the devil and Satan, and they never used it in religious music for 500 years, which is really interesting. And
they
then
could have been rocking out on the
so
Crusades.
Sabbath decided to use it, and but what I was getting at, long story short, is that most of Sabbath's music, for example, is actually about God and about hope and belief and like personal struggles. Yeah. And it's really funny because if you listen to some of their songs, they're very actually religious, like Christianity and Catholic wise. It's really interesting.
And the opposite of that, I saw an interview with I can't remember his name, the lead singer of Creed.
Scott Stapp.
And he's like, we're not a religious band. He's like, by any means. He's like, even that song that blew up he's like, it's not. He's like, I'm just like metaphor, He's like, I'm not actually, but it became a huge religious song, and he's like, whatever. He's like, we just went with it. He's like, all right. And he's like, all of a sudden we became this huge Christian rock band. And he's like, okay.
It's weird that they got with Chris. Actually, a really funny story that I had heard recently about Creed. Their guitarist, who is really famous and really talented, his name is Mark Tremonti. He had his own band called Tremonti, and he's also the guitarist for a wicked band called Alter Bridge, whose lead singer is Miles Kennedy. He's a crazy singer. He's been singing with Slash for a long time. They have like 5 albums together. Yeah. They're called Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. But he does all the Guns N' Roses stuff now and all that stuff, and he's fantastic. So Mark Tremonti, who was the guitarist of and one of the songwriters for Creed, he was saying back in the day, Scott Stapp, the lead singer, loved being creative, and so he would often like put the band in like really nerve-wracking situations where he would like on stage without telling the band, he'd be like, let's write a song right here on the spot.
Terror in their eyes
in front, and you guys get to listen, right in front of the whole crowd, and then he'd be like, what? And it's funny because one of their songs that ended up coming out from that, it was rough around the edges when they had done it, but it ended up becoming this song.
No way.
Was Scott Stapp had just he told the story that he had just had a kid, and he was like really emotionally moved by it. So Mark Tremonti started playing this like chord progression, this lick, and he's just like, well, I just heard the news today. Seems my life is gonna change. And basically that song ended up becoming one of their huge hits, and he made that up on the spot.
Lightning in a bottle, right there.
Yeah.
They nailed it.
That's it. No, you recognize that too, no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that ended up being one of their biggest hits, and they kind of wrote it on the spot.
Sick.
Yeah. It was a really cool story. I didn't know that, and I was like, wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I like that creative.
There's
aspect.
so many cool stories like that, and once you start talking to people, you find those out. And it's really cool. And I saw one. I just wanted to finish off on the satanic thing. I saw these little old videos, like these anti-PSA things from back in the day, where they're trying to save everyone. And it was like, if you find these things in your kid's room, he might be into Satan. And it was just like, he opens up, the kid has like some sort of treasure chest in his room, and then it's like a pendulum or like a sword, like the little sword. It's like black candles and this and this. These are signs that he may be into Satan. It was just like all pointed at
which
rock
is really
music.
funny because I'm a huge nerd. I play Dungeons and Dragons like almost every week with the group as well. I just love the creative fantasy aspect. I love fantasy, and so Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s and the 80s was completely what's the word I'm looking for?
Banned.
Confounded or paired with Satanism.
With witchcraft.
With witchcraft and Satanism. And so that was one of the things when you said, like, if your kid is into this, usually it was Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because all we're doing was we're a bunch of nerds rolling dice and doing math.
Yeah.
And saying, I attacked you and I do this much damage. And that's really all it is. So it's like how it can be satanic was just bizarre. It was really interesting.
A wild imagination. That's all it is. And I think it's more fear. It was just more fear mongering
People
of anything.
Understand, I guess.
Really,
yeah.
The church losing control.
Yeah. We're good. I think I got about another 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, you got. You don't have any new projects out yet, you said.
I'm working on stuff, and I definitely will release some music next year. I did release a piano version of one of my songs called Dance in the Rain. It was the original version. That song was nominated for 2 IPMAs, which are International Portuguese Music Awards, which was really cool. I didn't win either of them, but to be nominated was really, really cool.
Nice.
So I'm still working on music. I will get it out there. I've just been really busy with the business. It's been going really well, thankfully. It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
I'm trying to balance it with everything else in my life, with training and this and that and all that kind of stuff. So, I will get back to music. It's always there. And I always I won't stop doing it. And thankfully I'm doing the arranging, the composing stuff now. So that's another outlet or form of me writing music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool. And hopefully that takes off too. But I'll never stop doing music. I'm just going to go with the flow of like how it molds to my life. It's going to be there one way or another. So.
In your business, I love that, how you're adapting that and turning into this a specialty item and something you love too. You're still enjoying it, and it comes out in so many different forms, and that's why I kind of wanted to have this podcast as well, because it's just like, I still want to be part of the music community, but I also kind of like the production part of it too, and learning that as I'm going along. And it's like, I don't want to wait for this to be, I could have waited for some more lights and some extra stuff, better computer and stuff that. It's just like, why wait? Just get them out, just start pumping them out, and then as I get better, maybe I'll improve the quality of the stream. And
definitely, and don't get hung up on like the purpose of what this, like what you want this to be necessarily. Like I know you're talking about like maybe things not crossing over for like promoting the music and stuff like that, but like this could very well, like you have such a great setup that most people don't have. Like this could very well be its own thing.
Oh, that's what I think.
Know what I mean?
I think it will be, and that's the thing. It's like you don't know, like you said, until you throw it out there. You don't know what it could become. And
don't force anything to try to be something it's not. Just kind of go with the flow of like what it ends up presenting you, because that's been my whole whole life.
You nailed it.
Is like if Last Bullet didn't present itself to me, I wouldn't have been in there, and I wouldn't have had those experiences. If the Sabbath band didn't present itself, like you have to go out and make things happen, but things will also. If you go out and make things happen and you say yes and you put yourself in positions to meet new people and go to new places and see new faces, it will also generate new opportunities for you that will fall into your lap. If you don't go out and do these things and talk to these people and try, nothing will happen.
Don't be a blogger complaining that nothing happens to you.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of these opportunities, you have to go out and make them happen.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. Sometimes you just have to put in a little bit of effort to make things happen, and then sometimes all you got to do is get the wheel moving. You just get the engine started. The car can't go anywhere if the car can't go anywhere if the engine isn't even on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. No, I feel you, and I feel it's it's a new type of work ethic for me coming out of this lockdown and just the pace of things. So for myself, it's like when I used to go out a lot, I had to, we work entertainment, work nights as well as like, pursuing our music career as well. So I had to learn to pick and choose what nights I would like to go out, because I'm not going to go out to open mics anymore where I'm going to sit for 4 hours to play a couple songs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
So what I've done is, because I don't work per se during the day, it's like I've made my own work schedule in my day. So every day I read for an hour, I write for an hour, I do emails for an hour, I do editing for an hour, and then I work out for an hour. I have to do some sort of physical thing for an hour. So
it's really, really good.
I do that every day, and then
you're hitting all the bases.
When something happens and it presents itself, I'm ready. I'm in game mode.
Yeah.
So especially writing too, like when an idea comes out, the verse might be just I got it out, and I just change a few things just because I'm utilizing the muscle all the time, constantly. Yeah. And it's funny, I watched my performances on YouTube last night from 10 years ago until now, and it's like, now I see it.
Yeah.
Now I see all that. Like when you're looking at 10 years ago, like, that wasn't too bad. But now I look at it, it's like, wow, I actually see the progress, because it's like, now you put in the work. All those times you threw yourself on stage thinking, I know this is going to fuck up, but I have to go through it again to go through that process. And I'm excited this time because last time, like I said, it went into, lockdown and all that stuff kind of killed momentum. And this one, I'm very excited because, I'm learning to reinvent myself back into the scene again, but also I'm like affiliated with a lot of the younger guys and younger artists that are really saying
keeping like newer connections going.
This is here and that, but they've seen all the work that I'm doing, and they're like, oh, focus is still in it,
Awesome.
And so when I come back out, I really don't want to necessarily I want to go back to some of the venues that I had done before, but I want to make that transition into the new venues and I had already been doing that. Like I remember you and I were talking on the road one time, and we were just saying how venues are changing so rapidly, and it's just like, it's adapting all the time. So I don't want to keep your
no, it's okay.
All
good, no worries. I'm glad that you're still working on stuff and
man,
and still going on stuff. That's really important. It's really
new album should be out hopefully March or April.
Amazing, very cool.
It's gonna be good.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask you too, that one we did at your place. You have to get the stems from you.
Yeah.
And we'll make a deal.
Yeah.
And because I put violin on it, it's really.
Oh, right.
I have a violin player come over.
For sure.
Yeah. So we'll work that out later.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Cool.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
No worries, brother.
Thanks.
Nice to be here. Thank you, man.
Good. The one and only Bryan Fontez. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.